and welcome to the Free For All pod with me, Rob Fludder. As the title suggests, this is a total free-for-all with no set subject or genre, just a light-hearted and fun podcast in which I encourage listener interaction and at times special guests. Wherever you're listening, just relax and let's get into the episode. Well, hi and welcome to the Free For All pod, and here we are, quarterfinals of the Qatar World Cup, complete semi-final stage all set up. And what a quarterfinal stage it was, wasn't it, eh? This World Cup has had so many shocks, so much drama, a lot of goals, and in this quarterfinal stage really didn't let us down. It carried on that same theme, and in one game in particular, many yellow cards. Well, let's go into that first game, Croatia against tournament favourites Brazil. It's fair to say everybody fancied Brazil to go through on this. I think I said in one of the other episodes that Croatia looked a little bit leggy, a little bit tired through the group stages, and quite surprised to see them go through and then beat Japan. But they come up against a Brazilian side that's well fancied, and I think most people wanted to see Neymar set the tournament alight. He's very, he's a great player. We know that he's a really good player, but game one he did okay, and then he got his injury, and he's not really set the tournament alight. And I think a lot of people really wanted this to happen, in the quarterfinal stages, but it failed to happen. Now, yes, they did go ahead and Neymar scored in that game, but Brazil looked really flat, really out of ideas, and Croatia looked strong, full of resilience, didn't they? And they equalised, and rightly so. The game went into extra time. That was a dull affair, no real chances, nothing happening, and you could just tell that Croatia fancied their chances at a penalty shootout, with Croatia never ever being on the losing side of a penalty shootout in a major tournament. Now that's a record to behold, and one that I'm sure England fans would love to hold. It went to penalties, and it's fair to say that Brazil got it all wrong. Not just the penalties themselves, but the penalty takers. Neymar's gone fifth, wanted all the glory, didn't he, to score a winning penalty. He got a little bit too hyped, score the winner, take it home, be the poster boy, but it didn't turn out that way. And let's be honest, those Croatian penalties were absolutely fantastic, nestling straight down the middle in the corners of the goal. The keeper had no chance, with Croatia going through 4-2 on penalties. Brazil, by contrast, their penalties were weak. They had no real idea, no real placement. They tried all that fancy, 20-step run up and made it quite easy for the goalkeeper at times. But nevertheless, let's not take away anything from the Croatian goalkeeper. Some fantastic saves, a real hero on the night, helping his nation go through. And fair play to Croatia, because I think people don't talk about them enough in major tournaments. Let's not forget, they were finalists in the World Cup 4 years ago, semi-finalists in the Euros only last year, and now they're semi-finalists in the World Cup again. And it's not with amazing superstars. Yes, they do have a certain Luka Modric sitting in their midfield, but they're a team that really pulled together without too many superstars. Whereas, by contrast, look at that Brazilian team. You've got superstars all around them, none more so than Neymar, Messi plays for another South American nation that we'll talk about in a little while. But Neymar flattered to deceive for me, and I think he'll never live up to one of the greats. He's not done it for a country anywhere near enough that the greats have, the Messis, the Ronaldos, the Pelés, Eusebios. So there was also reports after the game, would this be his last World Cup? Who knows? I think he wants to make it a lot about him. He will stay at PSG, raking in the money. I don't talk a lot about footballers and money. I think it's easy and lazy swipe to have, because let's be honest, all working class people that love football, if they had that opportunity, they'd take the money. Whether we agree whether it's right or wrong, doctors and nurses, of course, they deserve more money and all that sort of palaver. But for me, Neymar really does live that playboy lifestyle, and I just don't see that he delivers anywhere near what he gets. I think he's very much a poster boy for football. he brings in shirt sales. But yeah, anyway, look, enough about slating him. He's a great player, but not top of the tree for me. And I think there was too much reliance on him for Brazil. And I think that they should have, for me, used their squad a lot stronger. Don't put everything through him and don't put all that reliance, because he hasn't delivered. And they've gone out. And it's it's one of those things that, again, Brazil not being in the final of a World Cup, and it's not even a semi-final. It's hard to get your head around, especially when they're playing someone like Croatia. And that's no disrespect to Croatia, by the way. Then we went on to the next game, and one that I was really, really looking forward to watching, actually. Friday night, 7 o'clock, Holland against Argentina. Absolute belters in the past. They've got a lot of needle there, some real cracking games, and none more so than the 1998 World Cup, that Bergkamp goal that everybody remembers. And I am biased. I love Arsenal, don't I? Bergkamp being one of my favourite players. But a lot of needle there. And this didn't disappoint. Well, the needle didn't disappoint, I should say. The game itself was slow. It was sluggish. It was a little bit boring at times. It looked like both teams were almost just playing a bit of chess. Holland really having load of the ball but doing nothing with it. De Jong in midfield, I felt for him at times, because covered a lot of ground, played a lot of passes, but didn't really affect anything. He didn't really go forward. There was a lot upon him to make things happen, but had to keep dropping deep, picking up ball from the centre backs, but didn't really have that influence to get at the Argentinian goal. And it was no surprise when we saw Argentina go 1-0 up, a really good goal, and then 2-0 up later on. It just felt that they were in control of the game. No one could really argue with what was happening. And I think that it looked, for all intents and purposes, Argentina go through. Because, let's be honest, Holland hadn't really done anything. They hadn't threatened, they hadn't shown anything up front. Depay gave the ball away a hell of a lot, didn't he? It just didn't work. But then Van Gaal, very experienced manager, isn't he? Third time in charge of Holland. He put the big old lumps up front, and all of a sudden they changed their tactic to lumping it up front and really testing the Argentinian backline. All game hadn't been tested. You've got to be honest that Holland, it was a quarter-final of a World Cup, and they hadn't really tested the Argentinian backline. And the Argentinian backline, Otamendi at the back, you'd like to think that they could have got to them. You'd like to think that they could have got in through that midfield a whole lot more. But when they put the big man up front, he come up trumps, a really, really good goal, made it 2-1. The Argentinians went really nervy, went within themselves. And Messi, who had done great during the game at times, he does wander around the pitch, but when he comes into life, he springs into it, doesn't he? He takes players on, he draws in fouls, free kicks. He had a fantastic free kick that just hit the top of the net. Really looked scary, made things happen. But once it went 2-1, you didn't even know Messi was on the pitch. And then all of a sudden, a real poor piece of defending by the Argentinians, very naive. Their centre-back come out, pushed one of the forwards down, didn't try and get the ball at all, gave a free kick opportunity, of which everybody expected, cross into the box, a shot from goal, hit the big man, whatever. But it was a training ground routine where they played it along the floor, a lovely turn by the big man, and finished it in bottom corner, taking it to extra time. Now, extra time didn't have too much about it, especially the first half. Second half got a lot better, with Argentina really pushing for a goal and coming close a couple of times. But in that game, I think it was 18 yellow cards the referee produced. Some of them were on the touchline, some of them for free kicks. No one could see what was happening. He had really lost the plot. Really, really, really poor performance from that referee. And I think FIFA really need to have a look at that, because that's not, with the players that we got on show in this World Cup, that's just not the standard we should be accepting and allowing. But went to penalties, good penalty shootout, some really good goals. Lionel Messi made penalty taking look so easy. I mean, it's as if he's got ice through his veins. He just stepped up, the weight of the world on his shoulders. Let's not forget, he is being spoken about as one of the greatest players, if not the greatest player of all time. You know, along the same speech as Pele, as Ronaldo, as Eusebio. And then he steps up, looks at the ball, looks at the keeper, does his little run up that nobody quite knows what happens, and just slots it down the middle like, yeah, what's all this about? Don't worry about it, I've got it. Absolutely fantastic. Argentina go through, and some real ill feeling towards the end of the game as well that carried over during the game. So yeah, it was lots of drama in there, lots of yellow cards. The football wasn't the best I've seen, but Argentina going through nevertheless. Now the next set of quarterfinals, saw Morocco take on Cristiano Ronaldo's Portugal. And after the 6-1 drubbing of Switzerland, Portugal looked absolute favourites to go through against a Moroccan team without any real superstars, but a real good brand of football and a coach that's only been in charge, I think, for 3 months. Ronaldo again was on the bench, which made headlines, and the photographers around him, it was amazing. You know, he sat on the bench and every press photographer in that stadium was focused on Ronaldo, not on his teammates that are around him that are on the pitch giving it their all. That's the circus that he brings. And, you know, he's commanded that over the years because he's been a fantastic player, but really disappointing that the press wanted to make such a deal of him on the pitch rather than on the bench rather than the players on the pitch. But the game started good tempo with Portugal having a lot of the ball, but Morocco defending really resolute, had a good shape about them, didn't look like no last minute defending, no silly tackles, anything like that. And Portugal not really breaking down Morocco in any which way, really. They played through the middle a little bit, but didn't get anything there. So they started pushing balls out wide. Had a little bit more success with that, but nothing to scare the Moroccans at all. In fact, it was the Moroccans that looked more threatening on the break, and it was on the break that they scored their goal. An absolutely fantastic finish, good goal. There was claims of a foul in the build-up, but absolutely not. And the actual stadium erupted. So many of the Moroccans had made their way over to Qatar. But I think it's the fact that, you know, in Morocco they do speak Arabic. Qatar speaking Arabic. It was amazing, and the noise was immense, and you could just see and feel it. And the game went on in that same sort of vibe, really, with Portugal huffing and puffing, not forgetting that they just put 6 past the Swiss in the previous game. But they didn't really have any clear-cut chances. Bruno Fernandes, he was getting a little bit irate. He had a good shot from the wing. That, don't know whether he meant a shot or a cross. Hit the bar, but that's pretty much as good as it got for Portugal. And they just didn't seem a cohesive team in midfield, at the back, up front. It just felt a little bit disjointed. Whereas the Moroccans, they had plenty of power, plenty of pace. They seemed to play freely, and nothing seemed to faze them, which really did shock me, to be honest. And they went out 1-0 winners, and well-worthy winners. And let's not forget, in their group stages, they didn't lose a game, beat some big teams, and looking really good. And they deserved their place in the semi-final. Now, the next quarter-final was the one match that was maybe the standout match of the quarter-final. That alongside Holland and Argentina. And that's 2 European powerhouses, England against France. Now, both teams, it's fair to say, have had a pretty decent World Cup. Sometimes flattering to deceive. England, especially against Wales and USA. And France, they lost that one game, didn't they? Was it Saudi Arabia during the... No, not Saudi Arabia. It was Morocco, actually. Sorry, Morocco beat the French, didn't they? Saudi Arabia beat Argentina. But both teams in the last 16 looked good, got through their games really, really well, and there was a real match-up, and everybody was talking about Mbappe. How could England stop Mbappe? But for me, I think in the